Awesome. All right. Can everybody hear okay? We good? Is everybody here for the free milk? Yes. All right. Excellent. So this session was originally called Selling Drupal, and I thought selling Drupal didn't sound very open source. So I thought I needed to give something away, and I was actually I'd come back from New York giving the Selling Drupal talk, and I was sitting on the couch with my wife, and we were watching. Well, I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention to what we were watching, but I was, we were having us time while she watched something on television, and they, some woman, her daughter was, giving the milk away, and I thought how opposite that is in the open source community and in business, because I'm constantly telling people to give stuff away for free, right? Share the knowledge, share all the cool things that you learn. Give it away, right? Be promiscuous with who you partner with. Don't just partner with one company. Partner with a lot of companies, because they're each going to bring you different things and augment your services in different ways. And I, kind of a brainstorm while I was sitting on the couch, and I said, you know what? I'm going to change the title of the session. So hopefully it sticks. How many people read the description, the session description? Okay, you did. Okay, cool. So, pet peeve of mine since South by Southwest this last year was I would read the session description and get really excited because I'm like, that's what I want to know. And I would get in the session and it was like I was in something completely different. And so the questions that were actually in the description, session description, are the questions that I will actually answer as we go through the presentation today. I'm Josh Ward. I work for Valachi. We're the Drupal SEO company. We do online marketing. We specialize in doing that for Drupal sites, leveraging all the great things about Drupal. So I don't technically sell Drupal. I sell online marketing. I run the partner program, and I do sales and marketing, and I get to come and hang out at DrupalCamp. So I have a pretty awesome job. But this was kind of the area that I felt like I could contribute back to, because I don't develop, I don't theme, I'm not a designer. Anyways, so that's where this kind of came from. But the first question is, why is selling so tough? Right? Selling stuff, I think for everybody. Quick survey, how many people own a business? Raise your hand. Almost everybody. Awesome. How many people are just freelancers? Which is still like owning a business, right? Or is owning a business. How many people work are sales or marketing people that maybe don't own the business but are just sales and marketing people? Okay, a couple. Cool. So selling's hard, right? Whether you're the business owner and you're trying to bring business in, or that's your full-time job, whatever it is, sales is tough. And I think sales is tough for a few reasons. The first being we turn into different people a lot of times when it's like, oh, I need to sell. And so we start telling everybody we come into contact with exactly what we do and trying to convince them that what we have is something they need to buy. Even if they just wanted to know our name and how our kids were doing, we still want to tell them all about our business because we're really excited about it and we need more business to stay in business. But we turn into these different people. And as a sales guy, right, I deal with other salespeople all the time. And hanging out with them away from their job, they're completely different than when I hear them on the phone with people. They have this alter ego that I call sales guy, right? And so it makes it tough because we don't respond to sales guy. We respond to people guy, right? Who you are as a real person. And I think a really good example of this, I'm going to steal from my wife again. Do y'all have Mary Kay in California? Yes. Okay. I wasn't sure if that was maybe just a southern thing or not. But my wife has several friends that sell Mary Kay, or I will say acquaintances that sell Mary Kay. And every time she runs into them, they come up to her and they're like, oh, just wanted to remind you that if you needed any samples or needed any makeup or anything, just let me know. Here's my card. Give me a call. Right? Every time they see her, they'll see her at the park with the kids. They'll see her at the grocery store. Wherever it might be. Now my wife, when she sees them, she turns and runs. Right? She literally will avoid them and goes the opposite direction. And I'm assuming, right? I don't hang out with them. But but I would assume that they're probably pretty nice people, right? Their husbands probably think they're pretty great. Their kids probably think they're all right. They probably have real friends. But when they become Mary Kay salesperson, it completely turns people off, right? It doesn't help them sell product. It just means that I get to use slides and make fun of them, right? That's all they're kind of doing for themselves. So sales is hard because we kind of become this person. The second reason sales is hard is because it's like baseball, right? Really, really good batters and baseball hitters, right? Even Babe Ruth and Hank Aaron and Man Ram up there, they strike out or don't get on base more than they actually do get on base, right? They fail more than they succeed. And sales is a lot like that, right? As a sales guy for the last 10 years, if my close rate was 30%, then I was killing it, right? My boss was extremely happy if I closed 3 in 10 deals. That means 7 people told me no for 3 people that told me yes. But that was great, right? That's success in the sales world. And so it's hard because sales is hard because you get told no a lot, right? And if you start taking those no's personally, you start feeling really, really bad about yourself. So it's very much a mental game, and being mentally strong, I think that's really important when you're running a business and when you're trying to sell your services. The other reason sales is tough is because you take the brunt end of everything rolls downhill, right? And as a sales guy, you're at the bottom of that hill, and so if you set unreal client expectations, guess who gets the project manager will find out about it, and then guess who gets in trouble? You do, as a salesperson. If you're the boss and you're closing deals and you're setting up unreal expectations, your project managers and the people that are dealing with your clients and doing the work, they're going to be upset with you because you didn't set what they see as realistic expectations, right? So it's tough because you not only have to deal with the client side of things, but you also have to deal with all the relationships in the office and keeping those people happy, right? And the last reason sales is tough is because buyers are liars, right? If you're not a salesperson and you haven't heard that, that's what we say about you when you're not around, is that you lie to us. And we'll pick on salespeople here in a little bit. But we say buyers are liars because when I ask you questions selling online marketing, when I ask you questions like, you getting a lot of business from your website? You'll say, oh yeah, we're getting business from our website. And okay, really, how are you tracking that? Oh, well, we don't have Google Analytics turned on. Oh, well, how do you know you're getting business? Well, people call us and they kind of tell us that they've seen our website. Okay, well, how do you know that they found you through the search engines? How do they know they found you through So you dig down and you realize that first inclination, right, was that I'm going to tell you everything's okay because you're a salesperson and I don't really want to let you in, right? There's walls built up. And most of those walls that people have when they interact with salespeople is because salespeople are jerks, right? We're pushy and we're fake, we're kind of spammy, whatever it might be, but there's walls there. And so buyers tend to sugarcoat things or not really let you in and let you know what's actually going on so you can help them, right? And that becomes the more information that I have as a salesperson, the more I can help you, right? I'll know better if my services are actually what you need or if you need to go somewhere else. But anyways, we have these walls that get put up, and it makes sales really hard. How many people want to trick customers into buying from them? One, right? That's good. I mean, honesty is great. It is open source, but right, we're not trying to trick people to buying from us, right? We want people that need our stuff, and we want to work for them and help them, right? I believe that, and so we have to break these walls down. Question number 2 is, why is selling Drupal like selling the unknown? And I have no idea what that picture is. And I think a lot of times our clients don't know what Drupal is, right? They're not sure. They don't understand what views and CCK is. I was sitting back there for the last 15 minutes of the previous session, and I've heard the word hooks all the time. And whenever I'm in a conversation and somebody says, oh, it's got hooks, I just nod my head. But I have no idea what they're talking about, right? And I would imagine most of the CEOs and the non-technical people that are making buying decisions about websites don't know what you're talking about either when you say those type of things, right? Usually, I think, there are decision influencers, right, the technical people, that probably understand exactly what you're talking about. But a lot of times, the real decision makers, the guys that are writing the checks, they have no clue what Drupal is. And quite frankly, they may not care what Drupal is. They want a solution for their problem, right? They want you to solve their pain. The other reason is people, when you talk to them about Drupal, they don't want Drupal. I'll tell you a quick story. I don't remember the name of the company, but back in the early days of power tools, right, they started making drill bits for, drills. And they had a whole, company started making them and producing them and selling them. And they had a bunch of sales reps that went out. And one guy performed better than everybody else. And so they were, hey, how do you sell drill bits was the question they asked him. And he said, I don't sell drill bits. And they looked at him kind of crazy and they're like, why, how do you, like that's what we sell. We sell drill bits, right? I'm getting your order forms. You're selling people drill bits. What are you doing? He goes, well, I don't sell people drill bits. I sell people holes, right? People don't want drill bits. They want holes. Holes in walls, holes in tables, holes in whatever it might be. But that's what I sell people, better holes. And so instead of selling people Drupal, which is our tool to build great websites, sell people great websites or great web applications. Sell them the end product of what they actually want, right? If you have questions or just want to add to something I'm saying or tell me I'm wrong, then just raise your hand or shout it out. I'm good with that as we go through this. Why is sales evil? So now we get to pick on salespeople. This is good. Sales, I think initially sales is evil because again, I'm going to go back to that analogy. We have this alter ego, and sometimes it's so extreme that we're just this we're this evil person, and all we're just consumed with, I don't really care what you want, I just want you to sign the contract. Just give me your credit card number and fill out the agreement, and let's just get going on this, right? And it's a really it's kind of non-human, I think. It's in any other situation in life, we wouldn't be like that, right? We'd be very understanding and fairly compassionate and everything, but in sales, we're not. And so I started thinking about, sales. Really, I mean, if you get on my my bio on Valachi's website, it says relationship manager, right? And that's kind of a made-up title. But that's really what my job is, right? We have relationships with partners and relationships with communities and relationships with our clients. And then there's this sales piece where we're trying to get new relationships, right? But that's what I do. I manage all those relationships. And so I got to thinking about sales as relationships. And since I flew into LA, I thought, I needed a very cosmopolitan couple. And so I picked these guys. And so they have a relationship, and they look pretty happy in that picture. And I got to thinking about if sales really needs to be about relationships, what is the opposite of relationships, right? What's the opposite? And I thought loneliness, right? Or being by yourself is the opposite of relationship. So this guy, right? Initially, I was like, this guy is the opposite of relationship. He's sitting in a bar all by himself. But in reality, this guy's probably not lonely. Like, there's a bartender that probably took the picture that he's buds with. He might have just gotten to the bar early. It looks like it's still daylight outside. He's probably got friends that he's waiting on or something. I don't think just being alone is the opposite of relationship. I think traditional sales is the opposite of relationship, right? It's the antithesis of what we normally try and do when we meet people. And so traditional sales, right, not what I think I'm trying to guide you toward, but traditional sales is the opposite of relationships. It kind of disregards making those real connections with people. The other reason sales guys are evil is because they not only lie to us, right, or sugarcoat the truth. I don't think salespeople intentionally lie to you. I think they intentionally omit things. And I think they try and make things sound not quite as bad, right? So they can close deals. But they lie to you, and they're also kind of an ass. And so that makes sales evil as well. And as I was putting this slide together, I signed up for Netflix. There any Netflix users in the room? Everybody except for me. No, I just signed up for Netflix, and it's amazing. It changed my life. And this was the first movie that I got from Netflix. It's a Ricky Gervais movie called Tell the Truth. And and in the movie, has anybody seen this? Couple people. Okay, it's hilarious. You should totally go out and see it. And it's kind of a romantic love story, so you could watch it with your significant other. It's a good movie. And it's funny, in the beginning, people in this alternate reality not only always tell the truth, they literally cannot lie. They also can't stop themselves from saying stuff, right? So they won't just not say what they're thinking. They say exactly what they're thinking. And so that lends itself to some really good comedy. And what happens is Ricky Gervais figures out that he can lie, right? And he lies, and he becomes like the most powerful man in the world, right? He invents religion and makes movies better, and ends up with all this money, and is very powerful. And then the story goes on, but he's lonely and all that kind of stuff. But he lies. He's completely different than what everybody else is doing, and he becomes uber successful, right? And so I think in sales, right, what happened if you always told the truth? And didn't just always tell the truth, but you never held back from what you were thinking, right? You always told the client exactly what you thought they should do, and that their plans were not really great plans, and everything else, right? Because in our world, in this reality, I think telling the complete truth all the time and saying what you think and feel is the complete opposite to what we normally do. And I think if you can do that, much like Ricky Gervais in this movie, you will become rich and powerful, right? And extremely influential. Because you will be different enough, and people will appreciate that truth, right? And they will appreciate your expertise. So tell the truth, and go to extremes to tell the truth, is the point of that slide. And that will make sales not evil. Okay, is every lead a good lead? Anybody want to take a stab at this one? Yes, in the back. No. Don't be silly. Of course not. Every lead is not a good lead. And if you think every lead is a good lead, you're setting yourself up for disappointment, right? I get told, or early in my sales career, right, I got told we would complain about leads, right? We get leads from contact forms and from other services. And our managers are like, every lead's a good lead. Every lead's a potential deal that you should close, right? So every lead's a potential sale. And in reality, that's not true, right? It doesn't mean, you should qualify a lead based on what their email address looks like. You should call them and talk to them. But don't think that every time you get on the phone or every time you meet with somebody, that one, they're going to want to buy from you, or two, that they're going to be a good customer for you, right? It's just, that's not the way the world works. And so understand that that every lead's not a good lead, and don't set yourself up for disappointment. Be skeptical when you go into those meetings or phone calls, or you send email addresses. Don't think that everybody's going to call you back just because you called them, because it's not going to happen. Which leads me to, I think, the next one: how do I qualify leads? Right. So if every lead's not a good lead, then how do I weed through all the leads that I'm getting? Does everybody know who Lullabot is? Yeah? They're a really cool Drupal company. Does anybody not know who Lullabot is? That's the better question. Okay. So there's a couple people who don't. So you should check it. It's lullabot.com. They're a Drupal company. They do a lot of training. They have some other products like Buzzer is kind of a Drupal Gardens competitor. And they also build really big, really great websites, right? They work on some of the higher profile projects in the community. This is Liza Kindred. She is, I don't know her actual title. I know for a while, when she first got on, her sole job was to tell people no. They would get leads in, and Lullabot didn't know how to tell people no. People wanted to work with them, but they shouldn't have been working with everybody, or couldn't work with everybody. And so Liza's job was just to tell people no, right? And having so much work that you have to tell people no and turn stuff away is a great position to be in, right? But I think it also made Lullabot a little bit more attractive. They were turning people down, so they were elite all of a sudden. And we'll talk about that in a second. But Liza did a really cool presentation about how Lullabot runs their company in San Francisco. And I think that presentation, or at least notes from that presentation, are available online, so you could Google that. So they run their company kind of uniquely, but she's got 3 rules, right? And you might want to write these down. She's got 3 rules that clients have to adhere, or they have to qualify for at least 2 of those rules before Lullabot will work with them, right? Number 1 rule is clients have to be nice, right? So when they engage a lead, if that person's not nice, then they already have 1 strike against them, right? So nice has to be one of them. The second thing is the project that that client or that lead has to be fun, right? They have to want to work on it. If it's not something that's interesting to them or going to keep they can't get behind, then that's another strike. And the third one is they have to have a healthy budget, not just a budget, right? We've all got a budget. They have to have a healthy budget, which in the development world I think means not just the $20,000 that you estimated for the project, but maybe like $30,000, so that when you have scope creep and you start doing add-ons and you realize additional needs as you go through the project, that it's not such a shock to the client and they actually have money to pay for that, right? I think that's what healthy budget means. But those 3 things, those are they're 3 rules, and 2 of the 3 have to be true, and at least 1 of the 2 has to be that the client is nice, right? How many people work with people or have clients that they don't think are nice? Yes. How many people have ever had a client that they didn't think was nice? Everybody's hand should go up. Right? So we all have people that we work with, and we take their money in spite of the fact that we really don't like them, right? Because they treat us poorly, because they don't listen to us, because they don't pay on time, for any number of reasons. They're not nice people. We don't think they're nice people. We shouldn't be working with those people, right? Qualify your leads beforehand, and how do you find out if somebody's nice? How do you run through those 3 things? The first way I would say qualify is ask questions, right? When you sit down and you talk with prospects for the first time, you should only talk for like 20 or 30% of the time, right? If you have an hour-long conversation and you talk half the time, that's too much, especially in the beginning, right? You need to be gathering information not only about the project, so you can better understand the client's needs, but so you get a really good idea of who that person is, right? Read them not only as as the project, but try and build a profile of what the client's going to be like. But ask a lot of questions. The second thing is always talk to decision makers when you can, right? Sometimes we start at the influencer level, but eventually you need to make it up and talk to the boss, right? You need to talk to the guy that's signing the checks, that's going to sign the agreement or the contract. Because he's going to have different expectations and different goals and different ideals of how the project is going to go than maybe the guy who you're actually going to be working with on a day-to-day basis. And if the boss man is the guy that's signing the checks, you need to know what he expects. And if what he expects is unreasonable, then you need to adjust those expectations or not work with the client, right? So make sure you always work your way up that ladder if you don't come in on the top, right? If you can, start at the top, because that's kind of the best way to do it. But we can't always do that. I'm a big Lakers fan. I jumped on the bandwagon back in the 80s. My grandparents were Lakers fans. And so I was really excited when I was actually in Boston for Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Any Lakers fans in the room? World champion Lakers fans? I'm in Southern California, and there's only me and one other guy. Boston? Okay, well, I'm sorry. Anyways, I was in Boston. It was at a bar in Boston. I got to watch Game 7 with a whole bunch of Celtics fans. And it was like, I like to talk at times, and it was so hard to keep my mouth shut, to just sit there and not say anything. But anyways, Kobe Bryant is, I think everybody can agree, he's an amazing player. And if you watch highlight reels, some of the things he does, it looks easy, right? He's very smooth when he plays, I think. It looks very easy. But we all know that he worked really, really hard. And he continues to work hard so that when he gets in big games and when he plays, even the day-to-day games, right, that he can take over games and just score 40 and 50 points whenever he wants to. And the reason he can do that is because he practices really, really hard so that when it gets to crunch time, it's natural to him, right? And qualifying leads is kind of the same way. You need to work really hard in the beginning to qualify the lead so that the rest of the project goes easy. So that getting that agreement signed is easy. By the time you've gone through the qualification process, the client should be drooling at the mouth to hand you a credit card and pay you and get started on the project, right? So qualify hard, close easy. And I think something interesting happens when you do that, right? When you qualify hard, a lot of times you have to play the skeptic's role, right? The devil's advocate. Always come up with excuses for the client not to work with you, and I think that leads to you asking more questions. But what happens is the more you kind of push the client away, the more you say, I don't know if we should work together because of this. Or what if, how are you going to handle this problem when it comes up? Or, what do you think about this? You play that skeptic's role, and the farther you move away from the client, the closer they're going to try and get to you, right? It typically is what happens. Not all the time, but typically is what happens. The more you ask those questions, they're like, well, wait a second. No other guy, no other shop asked me this. All the other people I'm talking to, they didn't ask me all these questions. I want to work with this guy, right? You may truly not want to work with them, but I think they're going to want to work with you more. And so it's kind of like playing hard to get, right? I mean, you're doing it because you think it's going to be better in the long run. So I mean, don't try and mess with people, right? But you're going to play hard to get. You're going to end up being the road runner, right? The faster you run away, the harder the coyote is going to try and catch you. And so I think that's kind of what Lullabot did, right? They said, well, we're not going to work with you. We're not going to work with you. They have these qualifications. They tell people they're not going to work with them. And what happens? The really big companies want to work with Lullabot. So play hard to get, right? Think of it in those terms. And another good example of this in the Drupal community is Advomatic. Is anybody Advomatic? They work libraries and government, nonprofit. Do a lot of projects like that. And this is Adam Mordecai. He's kind of my counterpart over at Advomatic. He actually was on the web team for Dean's campaign when he went off the deep end and was like, hurrah! He was actually supposed to be there. Him and a buddy were actually supposed to be there to run sound. He's got a really funny story. If you ever meet Adam, ask him about the Dean campaign. He's got some really good stories. But what they've done is typically what happens in government work is somebody will send out an RFP, a request for proposal, and they'll have a list of requirements that we want this in the project and this and this and this in the project. And what happens is a bunch of people submit proposals based on this RFP, and then they get into the project, and the client didn't know anything about Drupal, right? They didn't know what Drupal could do, and realistically, they didn't really even know what they needed. And they realized they needed other stuff, and so these government projects turn into, they've got, this set budget that really can't be expanded, and they end up being disasters, right? The people at the government are unhappy, the firms that are working for them are unhappy, and so they've experienced this. And what they did is they said, you know what, we're going to buck the system. So if you want us, if you're contacting us, asking us to respond to your RFP, we say no. And what we can do, though, is we can sit down and we can work with you to put together an RFQ, right? Put together an RFQ, a request for qualifications, right? So you're asking us for references and examples of projects that we've done like this. And then we'll sit down and we'll help you write a scope, right? We'll help you write the scope of work. And you're going to have to pay us for that, by the way. But when we get done with the scope, you'll know exactly what you need, right, and what you want. And you'll know how much it costs and what Drupal can do, right? You'll know that. So that then, once you've done your RFQ and you've kind of whittled down the firms, and you know exactly what you need, then you can submit an RFP, right? Then it's fair all the way around, and things are very accurate. And you've paid us to help you put together this RFP, but you don't have to use us, right, for the project. We want to help you through this process. And if you ask Adam, they're definitely not hurting for work. And that amazes me because they're telling the government, no, I'm not going to do it your bureaucratic, screwy, inefficient way. You're going to do it my way or we're not going to work with you. And what happens? The government says, oh, well, that makes sense. We don't usually do things that make sense, but we'll do it this time, right? And so these guys are not hurting for work. They're telling the government no, and they're not hurting for work, which, I don't know, blows my mind. Because I come from industries where you don't ever tell the government no. They send you a PO, you fill the PO. It doesn't matter if you're losing money, you fill it because eventually you'll get a PO that you'll make money on, right? You just play that game. And they've decided not to play the game. They're being different than all of their competitors. And they're changing the way things are done. It's great. So if you go to Drupal events, look for the Advomatic people. are there such things as bad customers? We kind of already talked about this. Not only are there such things as bad customers, I think bad customers are natural disasters for business, right? They're the F5 tornado that's going to come through and wipe out your little small business town, right? Completely wipe it off the face of the earth. That's what bad customers do. They do that because, I don't know if you've heard of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, but they do that because you spend 80% of your time on bad customers and they only bring you 20% of your revenue. Right? That's kind of my qualification for a bad customer. Besides the fact they may not be nice and all this, they may be overly demanding and they may not listen to you and all those other things. What that means is you spend way more time with those people than you do with the rest of your customers, and they bring you a very small percentage of your revenue and your profits. Right? If you find these people, right, you can go into your if you're tracking this, right, you can go into your financial statements and your however you track hours on projects, and you can figure this out. You should fire these people. You should the people that you're spending 20% of your time on and you're making 80% of your revenue on, those are the people that you should be going to and saying, hey, is there another project we can work on? What else can we do? Right? Those are the people you want to look for. All right. How do I fill my pipeline? Pipeline is kind of a sales term. Does everybody know does anybody not know what I say when I say pipeline? Okay. So pipeline's like it's like the prospects that you're shoving in. It's like the funnel, the sales funnel, right? You shove a whole bunch of prospects into the top, and a few fall out of the bottom. But if your funnel's empty, right, it takes time for prospects to get through the funnel. Less prospects fall out of the bottom than you shove into the top, and so you have to fill that funnel or that pipeline. You have to put a whole bunch of things in the top so that things will always be coming out of the bottom. Otherwise, your funnel or your pipeline just kind of dries up, right? So I think most people's pipelines look like this, right? There is something flowing through there, right? I don't know how much. It can't be too earth-shattering because stuff's still growing around it, right? It's in nature. I don't know. This looks very peaceful to me, even though it may not be eco-friendly. It looks, it's peaceful, right? And I think that's how most people's pipelines look like. It's just kind of a peaceful pipeline. We've got some deals that are coming in, and we're closing some deals, and we're maybe meeting some new people occasionally. And we've got some stuff trickling through. But what we'd really like is our pipeline to explode, right? We want so much oil that the cap blows off, and it fills the Gulf, right? The Gulf of our business. We want our pipelines to explode. We want to just stuff tons and tons and tons in the top, and that way it'll be bursting out of the bottom. Right? We're making lots of money and growing our businesses and taking awesome vacations and sponsoring Drupal camps, right? And the way you do that is with a calendar, right? You have to plan, just like you plan your projects, you plan your work, you have to plan your sales activities. You have to plan your business development, right? And I think the best way to do that is with a calendar. So, use Google, a Google Calendar, Google Apps. Those of you using Outlook, I'm sorry, but you can still use that calendar. iCal, whatever it might be, but start a calendar that's just for business dev, right? And on that calendar, you need an apple a day, right? You need a sales activity every day, right? Sometimes you might want more sales activities. You might even want to set yourself a quota for the month and say, I need to have at least 40 sales activities every month in order to fill my pipeline, right? But what do those sales activities look like, right? I'm not necessarily talking about cold calling, although cold calling could be one of the things you do every day. Oh, whoops, sorry. But one thing every day, right? It might be cold calls. You might pick up the phone book and just kind of slice through there and start calling businesses. You also might come to the Drupal meetup, right, and see if there's any business owners or any other companies that you could partner with. That's a sales. I would say a sales activity, right? That's an apple. You could work on a newsletter, right? You could start capturing people's email addresses on your website and start sending out a newsletter, right? Prospecting, and so creating a newsletter is an apple. You could, what do people in there? Let me some feedback. What do people in the room do to get new business? Activities that you engage in. Yes. Yes. Perfect. Yes, asking your current customer base for referrals. That's great. That is great. Yes.
I'm a filmmaker and I have a film a documentary from the Vietnam War. So I focus a lot on veterans affairs and things like that. So, you go into the website and maybe you have a specialty
Mm-hmm.
and you can find an event where there's going to be a lot of people to these websites, or especially related to your specialty.
Exactly. Yeah, that's great. If you specialize with doctors or with lawyers or with real estate agents or veterans or whatever it might be, every time they get together, you should be there too. Networking is an apple. Yes, up there. Yes. Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah, usability testing as a form of lead gen. I love it. That's great. That's perfect. Did you have one, Gary?
Yeah, I was thinking, I offer training.
Mm-hmm.
Teach people how to work or clean up on their own website and just give it to them, give them for hey, and then they start asking questions
And then they buy the cow. You give them the milk. See, Gary gives people milk and they buy the cow, right? He does training. He educates the masses. And what do? They end up turning into customers, right? Because they're like, oh, this guy knows his stuff, right? Doing webinars. We do training for our clients. We ask our clients to invite people. We do training for our partners. We will train anybody literally on SEO almost for free, right? We do some paid training too, but we do training at least 2 or 3 times a month. It's free, and it's so we can do lead gen, right? We want to share the information, but it's not purely altruistic, right? We do want to get something out of the deal. Yes, you had another one.
Yeah, I used to work for a web design company, and the guy was really into fishing. So he'd go to a fishing convention, and he'd talk shop with them about that. And that's how he connected with them. And they all wanted him to do their websites that had to do with fishing. All these things.
That's awesome. But he talked about fishing with them, right? Yeah, that's great. I think that hits on 2 things. One, talking to other people that have the same interest that you do, because it builds a relationship, right? You break down all those walls that we talked about in the beginning. That's perfect. Thank you. That was great feedback. You filled some time for me. Oh. Giveaways. That's right. You can give stuff away like iPads, and people will love you forever. Thank you, Gary. This picture has something to do with Darth Vader taking on work at the mall in the off season. I think I don't know. I just thought it was a cool picture. It really has nothing to do with what I'm about to talk about. But it's pay time versus non-pay time. You know what? My kids totally believe in Darth Vader and Santa Claus. And they would, I'm not sure, this might scar them for life if they thought Darth Vader killed Santa Claus. But we lie to our children, and we haven't told them the truth yet, but that's hilarious. But pay time versus non-pay time. We've got, so when I wake up, it's the relationship thing, right? That's what I do. And so I go into work, and I know that from 9 to noon, depending on the time zone, is the time I can reach people, right? From 9 to noon, and then I'm not going to be able to reach them around lunchtime, right? And then from maybe until 4 o'clock, right? From maybe 1 o'clock until 4, I can reach people, right? I can get responses, I can talk to them, they'll be available. For me, that's pay time, right? That's when I build my relationships, that's when I get my sales activities in. The time in between, early in the morning, up until 9 o'clock, lunchtime, and then in the evenings, are non-pay time for me. That's when I can do other stuff. That's when I can work on coordinating training events. That's when I can work on itineraries for DrupalCamp. That's when I can work on my slide deck and look for silly pictures. That's when I can do all the other stuff that's part of my job, right? I can have meetings with the project managers. I can, whatever it might be, but that's the non-pay time, right? But when people are in their offices, that's pay time for me. Consequently, that's pay time for you, right? If you need to do a lot of those sales activities, are in pay time, right? Which means if you're a small business owner, or if you not only do sales, but you also build websites, then you might have to build websites early in the morning or late at night, and during the day, you need to be doing other stuff. You need to be focusing on getting more business through the door. And you need to separate the two. You need to have pay time or sale time and non-sale time. Sale time and project time, maybe. But on your calendar, you also want to be looking at, what are my blocks for the day? When can I call people? When can I go visit people? All that kind of good stuff. Pay time, non-pay time. So here's a good one. So I ran this one by my wife. I was going to wear one of those tearaway suits, and when I got to this slide, I was going to rip it off and have shorts and a t-shirt on or something. Like I wasn't literally going to get naked, but I thought for a fact it'd be good. But this is a great book. It's actually he's written it like a narrative. So he tells a story for the first 3 quarters of the book, and then the last quarter he just summarizes all the points he's trying to make. But it's a really good book, and they talk about getting naked with your clients. And it's not illustrated or anything. But it's about being honest, right? Being upfront. One of the keys, one of my favorite points that he makes in here is telling the kind truth, right? So we talk about the Ricky Gervais movie, and I said, hey, tell the truth. Always tell the truth. Say exactly what you're thinking. You can do those things and still be nice people, right? Just because you're telling the truth and you're telling them what you really think doesn't mean you have to do it in a rude manner, right? You can be kind, but you can still tell them, and you can be you don't have to apologize for it. You can still be authoritative, but you tell them the truth. So this is a quick book. Next time you're on a plane or a long train ride or a bus or whatever it is, you could probably power through it. It's a good read. I would recommend getting that one. Another great book for sales is, so this is my opinion. I may be wrong about this, but I believe that Carnegie and most of his stuff is what every other self-improvement book is based on, and self-help book, and most sales strategies. I've been through a lot of sales training, and I think Carnegie is by far the best because it's presented in a much less salesy way than most are, and it's talking about winning friends, right? He puts friends first, and I think that's purposeful. But if you haven't read this book, it's been around for forever. Or a really long time, you should go out and get it and read it. And it's not a short read, but it's not a long one either. But go out and read this one. And then after you read these books, and hopefully you take a couple of things away from what I talked about, you need to go practice, right? I don't know if anybody remembers, but when Iverson was playing, he had this press interview where he got in trouble for not showing up at practice. And he was like, practice? Why do I need to practice? I play. I'm an all-star. I'm going to the Hall of Fame. I scored 50 points last night. Why do I have to practice, right? He got crap for it. Well, I'm not the Allen Iverson of sales, right? I'm not all-star. If you are an all-star in this room, then let me know and we'll just trade. You can stand up here and talk, and I'll go sit down and listen to you. But you have to practice, right? We have to practice because we're not making, tens of millions of dollars doing sales. Or again, if you are, come let me know what your secret is. Because I want to steal material from you. But practice. One way to practice involves a house. So one of Dale Carnegie's things is picture stories in order to help you remember tools, right, or systems, or whatever you want to call them. And so there's this one story he tells where you're walking down the street, and you come to this house, and you see a mailbox out in front of the house. And on the side of the mailbox is the person's name, right? And for whatever reason, you're compelled to open the mailbox. And you open the mailbox, and you look through, and there's not a back to the mailbox. It's empty, and so you look through the mailbox, and you see a house. And the house has some big windows in the front, big bay windows, and the curtains are drawn. And inside the house, you see this person, and maybe it's the wife and kids, maybe it's their friends or family or whoever in the house. And they're, playing cards or watching TV, or they're eating dinner. And then you notice that there's a fire in the fireplace, and you're kind of drawn to the fire, and you end up going, you follow the smoke up through the chimney. And out on top of the house is this like Boeing 777 or something, right? Just this massive airplane. But instead of having the big jet engines, it's got the propellers, kind of a spruce goose type thing. Except the propellers are hockey sticks and golf clubs and I don't know, tennis rackets, right? And it's a great story, right? And it's fairly easy to remember. But the key, right, when the point of the story is just a way to remember. If you're uncomfortable interacting with people, it's a way to kind of initially break those walls down and build relationships. So the meaning of the story is the first thing you need to know about somebody is their name. And don't ever, ever forget their name, right? That's the most important information you need to know about anybody, right, is their name. And then if you need stuff to talk to that person about, right, then ask them about where they live, right? Are you from Southern California? Are you from Texas? Are you from Boston, right? Where are you from? Where do you live? Talk to them about their family, right? I've got 4 kids. If you talk to me about my family, I will talk to you for a very long time, right? I will give you all sorts of information. But talk to them about their family, their friends, you know, what they like to do with those people. And then the fireplace, either I don't remember what it means or it doesn't have meaning. And the smoke, I don't really remember either. But the airplane is travel, right? So some people travel a lot. They don't travel a lot, but they want to travel. And so you can talk to them about that. And then the hockey sticks are not so much sports, but interests, hobbies, right? It may be, I don't know, maybe collecting stamps or coins. It may be smoking cigars. It may be, you know, drinking beer. Whatever it is, you talk to people about their hobbies. And the trick is not to engage somebody in a conversation and go, "What's your name? Where are you from? Yeah. Do you have any family? No? Okay, that's great. Where do you like to travel?" And run through those things over and over as fast as you can. The point is, you're going to hit on something that sparks, you're going to see their eyes change, right? They're going to get excited about one of those questions, and then you've got a conversation starter, right? And not just any conversation starter, but one they're interested in, right? Not something you forced on them, but something they're interested in. I saw a hand go up. Yes?
I think you're making a pretty good point on it, but also how this relates a little bit to web development stuff. Is that the same way that somebody buying a lawnmower is interested in their garden and their house and their family and stuff like that. Somebody, a client who's a website is interested in their business idea and their plans and their goals and stuff like that. So it's translatable a little bit to their business model.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Did you have something to say about the smoke in the fireplace?
Yeah, I think that was supposed to be their line of work.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Now, hopefully I'll remember. So line of work. Talk to them about where they work. That's great. Both of those are great points. Yeah. This works. You know, Carnegie's talking about making friends, right? We're talking about sales and business relationships. And so, yeah, translating this, making it your own, you know, having your own little story in your head, and then talking to people about, you know, something that will hopefully further your business. It's great. The other resource I would talk about is, so there's this other adage, this kind of sales adage that I like, although I think it gets skewed. It's people buy from people they like. People like themselves. Therefore, people buy from people like themselves, right? And so I don't, so what I think some people take that to mean, well, I can't sell to anybody that isn't just like me, right? I can only sell to one type of person. And that may be true, right? It also doesn't mean that you need to imitate whatever that other person is doing or pretend to like what they like doing, right? Part of the whole narrative piece is to find some common ground, right? Find something you can have a discussion about that you're both passionate about. You both have ideas and you're passionate about. And in that one way alone, you're like that other person. Right? We all have similarities. Rarely do you meet somebody that's the polar opposite of you in every way, other than maybe your wife, right? I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. My wife's not like that at all. But yeah, so you find that common ground, right? And if you can find that common ground with somebody, it's going to make it much, much easier to sell to them, or to figure out what they actually need, right, and come up with a solution. The last resource or tip I have is I'm all about face-to-face contact over conference calls and Skype chats and all that kind of good stuff as much as possible, right? Twitter's great and Facebook's great and all the ways we keep in touch with people is great, but I'm all about face-to-face as much as possible if, right, the caveat, if you have a purpose for meeting face-to-face, right? Sometimes as salespeople, we're guilty of just getting together and just shooting the shit with people, right? And we're just all about having fun and we never get any work done or business done, and you want to try and get away from that. I'm going to burn through these. What if I'm not a sales guy? If you're not this guy, what if you're not this guy? Good. Don't be this guy. Give the milk away. Be the milkman, give the milk away, and they'll buy the cow. How do I properly communicate, blah, blah, blah? That's the $1 million question, or maybe even the $1 billion question. But Drupal is boring to your clients. Don't be boring business systems. Be different like Advomatic. Be like Stouffer. They were a sponsor. They talk to people about what they want, the product or the deliverable that they want, and then they say, great, I'm going to build you that with Drupal, right? They don't talk to them about Drupal first. People are buying you, they're not buying Drupal. Give them the expertise they want, tell them the truth. People don't haggle over the price of an Armani suit. Don't let them haggle over the price of your Drupal services. I had a really great story here about Napoleon Dynamite and sales that I'm going to skip. Thank you for your time.
We're going to do with the tickets. These are the Zen Studio license, valued at $300. Also, Adobe Dreamweaver CS5 for Windows, valued at $400. Tropo, how many here actually got to go to the Tropo session or, okay. So Tropo, for those that don't know, Tropo's got like